So let's compare the mid-range Galaxy S24 FE with the budget mid-range Moto G Power 2024. So the S24 FE is the Galaxy phone like the S24, but you want it a little bit cheaper, with still a very good set of specs, but just not as good as the flagship. And the Moto G Power is a super budget price, but it has a lot of mid-range specs. So price-wise, the S24 comes in at $650, which is around $150 cheaper than the flagship S24. Very different price point than the Moto G Power, which you could get it for free on prepaid. And if you get it unlocked direct, you can get it, $200 and up. But I want to compare it at the $650 price point on the Galaxy to the free price point on the Moto G Power. So both phones were released in 2024. Overall size, the Moto G Power is just slightly taller, slightly bigger, but it's also more lightweight than the S24 FE. But both of them are pretty chunky, big devices in general in your hand. Build quality, the S24 is better. Glass front, glass back, aluminum frame. The Motorola is a plastic device, but it has a really nice feeling fake leather on the back. Both of them are nano SIM card and eSIM capable. IP68 on the S24. Moto G Power is only has a water repellent design, so they'll both be decent in a rain shower, and the S24 can take a slight dip in the pool without any damage. Now let's talk about the display. Both of these are rocking 120 hertz refresh rate, which is very nice. That's a flagship feature right there, honestly, on both of these devices. Both of them have a big 6.7-inch display, but the S24, it does have slightly smaller bezels all around. For the resolution, both of these are 1080p displays, and they're fairly nice, especially for the price points, especially on the Moto G Powers. But that 120 hertz is way nicer on both of these devices than, let's say, something like the 60 hertz on the iPhone 16. Moving on to the OS. Both of these are running Android 14, the newest version of Android, but you have the Samsung UI on the Galaxy, which makes it feel like you have an S24. And the Moto G Power has a stock version of Android 14, which feels like a Pixel, but it is not getting any updates, while the S24 is getting several years of updates. Big advantage on the Galaxy if you like updates. Both of these have mid-range chipsets, which will be fine for 99% of people, except high-end gaming and high-end video games, high-end editing and stuff like that. It's not going to be, this is not what these phones are for. But everyday apps, they run super smooth, very fast, a lot of multitasking, especially since both of these have 8 gigs of RAM, which is plenty than enough for most everyday tasks. As for the internal storage, both of these are rocking 128 gigs, but the Motorola has the micro SD card slot, which the Galaxy does not have. And that's pretty much the same type of storage you get on higher end phones. So these are really getting closer to the flagship level. The camera setup. Now, this is where these phones separate. The S24 has a close camera setup to the flagship Galaxy S24. It has 3 cameras on the back: the main camera, the telephoto, and the ultra-wide. Motorola G Power has only 2 cameras in the back, the main and the ultra-wide. The Galaxy S24 shoots in 8K, same thing as the S24. Motorola only shoots in 1080p, not even 4K. And let's just summarize it real quick. The S24 camera is pretty close to the Galaxy S24 in terms of quality with pictures and video. And this is where the Motorola really fails. Its biggest drawback is going to be the camera system. Pictures and video aren't that good, especially the video. If you're in bright sunlight, you'll get some decent shots, but for the most part, this is not a camera you want to rely on. For the selfie camera, you have 4K on the S24, only 1080p on the Moto G Power. So this is safe to say that the camera on the Motorola is not its bright spot. And actually, this is one of the better things on the S24 that make it close to the S24. Headphone jack, you don't have it on the Galaxy, but you do have it on the Moto G Power. That's a plus right there. Both are rocking Bluetooth 5.3, NFC. Now, they both have fingerprint readers, but the S24 has an under the display one, which is not, it's only optical. It's not a ultrasonic, so you might get some misses here and there. That's something that the S24 does better at because it has the ultrasonic. The Moto G Power has a side-mounted fingerprint reader, and I honestly like it having on the side because it's very, very receptive. It's very reliable, and it just does its job. Nothing fancy, but it gets the job done. The Galaxy also has Samsung DeX, so it could turn into a laptop. That's or a desktop experience. So that's kind of a plus right there. Something the Moto G Power doesn't have. Battery-wise, both of these I got you all-day battery life. The S24 has a 4700 milliamp, while you get the big 5000 on the Moto G Power. Both of these have semi-fast charging, which will get you 50% charge in 30 minutes. Both have wireless charging, but the S24 has that reverse wireless charging as well. So we went through all the specs, and what do I think about these devices? What are the key takeaways? Well, price-wise, if you want a flagship level device, the S24 will serve you well. It has a strong camera setup. It has the same software, and it has the reverse wireless charging capabilities. It has the really thin bezels, and the chipset is more than enough to do its job, and it has that Samsung experience. And if honestly, the build quality is just as good as the S24. So if you want a close flagship experience, this is a cheaper option, but it's not cheap by any means. It's at $650, so you're not really saving that much money. You might as well probably go for a used S24. But the Moto G Power, this is where it really shines though, because you can get this device for free on prepaid, for example. And even if you pay out of pocket unlocked, you can get it for less than $200 right away on Amazon or something. But the camera setup is really what's hurting the Moto G Power. That's something that I've realized now, that you really need a good camera. Not the best camera, but a good, decent camera. And the Moto G Power, Motorola sucks with the camera systems, and this is where it really fails. Everything else seems pretty good on it. The price is good, the screen is good, the battery is good, the software is super fast. Both of these phones have 8 gigs of RAM. So it really depends. The biggest sticking point is going to be the camera is really good on the S24, but the price on the Moto G Power is very appealing. And also the Moto G Power, for example, has the SD card slot, and it also has the headphone jack. So that's the one thing that separates this from the Galaxy S24. At the end of the day, it's a tough call, but the average person, the Moto G Power will serve them better because you're only sacrificing the camera, but you get everything else that's good about the phone, and you can get it for free. You cannot compete free to $650. Maybe you could get the S24 FE used for around maybe $400 to $500, but that's a big price difference. At that point, you might as well just get a flagship, a used flagship phone. So that's been my take, pros and cons comparison review of the S24 FE and the Moto G Power 2024.